Louis Riddick on the call for Syracuse win at Clemson. He's got Florida State, Virginia coming up on Friday on the mothership, and then he'll be doing one of the Monday night games, Jets and the Dolphins, also on ESPN. So, Louis, what I love about you as an analyst when I'm listening to you call the Syracuse-Clemson game is you don't hide your distaste for something. When something is bad or something bothers you, you don't try to mask that. You groan sometimes. I appreciate that. So very enjoyable listening to you guys do that game. At what point did you think Syracuse was a better team than Clemson?
Well, I don't know if they're, well, let's just say this, 1 through, let's just say 80. I don't know if they're a better team in terms of the individual players. I think Clemson is very talented as far as the kind of kids they have on that roster.
Yeah, but that makes it even worse.
Exactly. Exactly. That's my point. That's my point. I think right out of the gate, you could see that Syracuse had a different mentality. And look, Dabo told us that when we talked to him. He said, really, this game's about a mentality. It's about how our guys, or are our guys going to go ahead and play up to their potential? Are they going to accept the challenge? Are they going to be sick and tired of being sick and tired of losing the 2 games that they lost to Tech and to LSU, which are basically, like one possession type games where they could have won the game? And are they going to rise up? And early in the game, you saw they weren't ready for it. And Syracuse was like, guess what? We're pulling out all the stops. Fran Brown said, we're pulling out all the stops. We're putting the ball up in the air. We're going to put it up to our 6'3", 6'4" wide receivers who we think has an advantage. We're going to have surprise onside kicks. We're going to run the football better than we've run it in the past 2 years, right at the heart of your team, where you supposedly had 2 or maybe 3 first rounders on your defensive line, and we're going to smack them right in the mouth. And how are you going to respond? How are you going to respond, Clemson? And right out of the gate, I was sitting there going, they're not. And how many people picked them on game day? How many people picked them, probably in our own crew, to think this is a get-right game for Clemson? They're going to blow Syracuse out. Syracuse struggled with UConn. Syracuse got beat up by Tennessee in week 1. There's no way they can play with them. I'm telling you, as you know, you've covered sports for a long time. Football in particular is about an attitude and a mentality. And there's something wrong with the attitude, the mindset, and the mentality of the players at Clemson right now. For whatever reason, they are just not able to dial in and maintain consistent performance. And Fran Brown, you better give the guy some respect. After the season he had last year coaching that team to 10-2, and they give him one of the hardest schedules in all of FBS this year, and now he comes out and goes down to Death Valley and wins there like they won. That guy is for real, man. They are for real. Syracuse is on the up and up.
These things don't happen overnight. Mike Gundy didn't forget how to coach football at Oklahoma State, and Dabo didn't forget how to coach at Clemson. But it doesn't feel like they are caught up with the times of college football. Saban talked about this. This drove him out of the game. You got to be NIL. You got to be transfer portal friendly, and these are Hall of Fame coaches that are getting embarrassed.
You know what? Look, I love Nick to death. Okay, obviously the guy taught me basically everything I know about football. Him and Bill. I don't necessarily agree that you have to be like gung ho, like 100% into the NIL transfer portal arena in order to compete. Look, obviously, when you look at a team like Florida State that revamps their offensive line, revamps both coordinators, and all of a sudden they go from what were they, 2-12 last year? I mean, and I saw the beginning of that slide last year when we did their game against Boston College, to now this year being the 7th, 8th ranked team in the country we're going to see on Friday. And they did it in large part by getting a new quarterback, getting a new offensive coordinator, a whole new offensive line, a bunch of guys coming on the defensive side, and all of a sudden it turns. Dabo's got good players. They got Will Helt out of the transfer portal from Purdue, who's their best defensive player this year. But Peter Woods, T.J. Parker, these guys, Sammy Brown, Wade Woodaz, Bryant Westco, these dudes are all 4- and 5-star kids. They're all 4- and 5-star guys who are good players. There's something though that doesn't connect, that they're not able to get across to these guys
Hmm.
as far as playing consistently for 60 minutes and from week to week. There's just something weird. Look, Bill just revamped his entire roster, Belichick, down in North Carolina, right? They're all in the transfer portal. Dion's all in the transfer portal out in Colorado. It's not working for them. It's not all of a sudden putting them at the top of the heap. I think what people are saying though is maybe Dabo could be a little bit more selective and a little bit more of a participant in terms of finding maybe a couple more pieces that could help get him back into the national title contention picture. And I don't disagree with that,
Okay.
but I don't think that all of a sudden he is doing something that everyone needs to like hammer him for him and say, well, you know what, he's just lost it because he doesn't want to play in the transfer portal. Nick also has been the person who has said this. If you can go in the transfer portal and you can go gung ho and you can throw a bunch of money at these guys if you want, but if you pick the wrong guys, as he says, you're shit out of luck. And then what? Then what are you going to do? So I think there's a fine line, man. There's a fine line.
Are there any great teams in college football?
Um, I don't know if there's great. There. Look, I think right now, I think Miami has the potential to be a great team. I think but Georgia is going to be there in the end. Um, we'll see what Ohio State looks like when it's all said and done. I think there's gonna we'll see what Penn State we're gonna find out about them this week against Oregon. I don't know if there's great teams. I don't know if there's one team that's just separating themselves from everyone else, but I think we have some very very quality teams right now that is going to make uh, the CFP very very interesting and very very hotly contested, which I think is just great for college football. You see it with the ratings so far this year. It's as good a season as I can remember recently.
Louis Riddick of the mothership. He's got the Jets Dolphins next Monday night. He'll have Virginia Florida State coming up on Friday night. Let me turn our attention to the NFL. The Jackson Dart, do you play him? Do you ease him in? They looked uninspired against the Chiefs, and I'm just not sure when is a good time to bring in a rookie
Now,
quarterback. Now?
now, it's the look. I respect Russ. I really do. I respect his entire career, his process, how he's conducted himself, all that. I think obviously we have to kind of look in, with proper context, the performance that he had a week ago against Dallas. I think we saw what Dallas is defensively. We saw it yesterday. They're going to struggle. They'll be the worst defense in the league this year. We also saw what Russ looks like against a championship caliber defense, which is what Kansas City has. And we saw how he looked in crunch time. It's like I couldn't understand some of the decision making he was that you saw on display from him late in that football game, throwing the football out of the back of the end. It's like, Russ, what are you doing? Like you're not even giving your guys a chance. What are you like? Come on. Like, I don't believe in the whole you ruin quarterbacks um, by playing them too early. In particular, well, let me put it this way. It's a case by case thing. We saw it last year with Drake May. Maybe a lot of people thought you would ruin Drake May in his rookie season if you played him too early. He inspired the football team. Okay, you thought maybe in Washington, Jaden Daniels, can he handle being the starting quarterback from week one? Yeah, he handled it just fine. He took him all the way to the NFC title game. I think Jackson played a lot of football at Ole Miss. He was very well schooled at an SEC school. He infuses that football team with confidence. You can see they're starting to lose Malik Neighbors from a mental standpoint. He looks so distraught again last night. It's like, look, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. You got to kind of like safeguard the rest of the football team, as far as keeping these guys engaged. And I think Jackson could do that for the rest of this team. He could give them some hope. He could give the fan base some hope, although they're not the ones playing the games. Long story short, put him in there now.
But do you
They
put
can
him
do enough to put him in there now.
put him in there for a home game against the Chargers or a road game against the Saints?
I think I had mentioned like back in the preseason that game against the Saints on the road would probably be a good time to put him in there because he's on the road against maybe a quote unquote inferior opponent than what the Chargers look like right now. So maybe that is the time. I don't know. I would just do it much sooner rather than later. I wouldn't be opposed to doing it this coming week. Obviously, you would like for it to be a setup to where he could come out of the gates really humming and on fire and feeling confident and not having the weight of the home crowd on his shoulders. But I don't think Jackson really cares. I think the guy's played enough football at a high enough level when you're talking about college to where he doesn't really care about that. And honestly, this offense, the kind of things that they do with this offense when he's in there, the way they run the hurry up, the way in which they spread it out and kind of have him do a lot of the things he did at Ole Miss. Look, I think that's going to work regardless of whether you're in New Orleans or you're at home against a tough opponent like the Chargers. Just put him in there. This team needs they need an infusion of energy because right now, I mean, they just look like dead man walking again. And how many years has that been the case at the beginning of the season with the Giants consecutively now? It's just the same old story.
I mentioned this to start the show. Sometimes you have a win that feels like it's 1.5 wins, or you
Yeah.
have a loss that's 1.5 losses. Like the
Mhm.
Rams, that feels like that's 1.5 losses, that you're blowing them out, you're on the road, and then you lose in dramatic fashion.
Yeah. This is where coaching and leadership comes into play because you're right. This can have like a lingering hangover type of effect, right? Like where you're like still sitting there a week later going, damn, how did we lose that? What were we up 26-7 at halftime? I mean, we're absolutely rolling, and all of a sudden AJ Brown takes the game over. We have two blocked field goals, one return for a touchdown. We lose the game on that. Yeah, you have to like quickly try and find a way to turn the page. That's going to be on Sean. That's going to be on Matthew Stafford. That's going to be on Jared Verse. That's going to be on the dudes to say, hey, look, we got to flush this thing as painful as it is because we know we're a good football team. We had this team down. I mean, we were absolutely stomping their back out and we let them back in it. So, leadership, that's where it comes into play.
I'm not sure I have a strong opinion on the Bears or Cowboys. When I'm watching that game and it's over, like I don't know how good the Bears are and I don't know how good the Cowboys are.
Yeah.
Do you have an assessment of these? Do you know who these teams are going to be this year?
I think when it comes to the Cowboys, I think they are exactly who they look like, which is a team that will be able to put up some points when Dak is on. And if the offensive line stays healthy, they should be able to run it adequately. But defensively, they are just not a very stout, tough, physical, grinding, gritty defense that can stop the run. And they give up way too many explosives in the pass game. And I just don't see that changing. You can't really change that kind of thing midstream from a talent infusion standpoint because where are you going to get the players?
Well, they paid those defensive backs too.
You're right. But you know what? Trayvon doesn't look the same, does he? He doesn't look like he has the same wheels. Their safeties and their corners don't communicate very well together. You saw it a week ago against the Giants, the number of coverage busts,
Yeah.
where people are not playing in unison. They don't rush the passer with consistency. Kenny Clark wasn't going to all of a sudden make them a top five run stuffing defense. What did the Bears do? They ran the ball like 11 or 12 straight times on them on like this grueling like 9 minute drive. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that should never happen at the NFL level. You can do that in college. You shouldn't do that in the NFL level to anybody. People are really challenging Dallas's manhood from a physicality standpoint, and they have no answers for it. And I think that's going to be the case with Chicago. Chicago's trending the right way. Ben Johnson will get that place going and he will get Caleb going and he will even out his performances. And we know Dennis Allen is a very good defensive coordinator. He's always been a good defensive coordinator. If I'm betting on anybody of those two teams, I'm for sure putting my money on Chicago. There's no question about that.
If the Cowboys offered you the GM job, would you pass on
Oh,
it?
I think anybody would simply because it's Dallas, right? It's Dallas. But I mean, obviously it would, you would hope that it would come with some stipulations. But I think at the same time, you also know that it will never be just your job. But like Dallas was like my squad as a kid. I love the Dallas Cow. I love Tony Dorsett more than life. So of course I would be interested in it. But that'll never happen. So I don't even really think about it. It'll never happen for anyone.
You all in on the Chargers?
Absolutely. I think Jim Harbaugh has such a unique connection with today's players and with that quarterback and with Justin in particular. I think the leadership structure on that football team in the locker room between Justin, Joe Alt, Keenan Allen on the offensive side, Khalil, although he's hurt right now, but he'll be fine, Deion Henley, Derwin James on the defensive side. This team they believe now. They believe that they're a well-rounded enough football team to deal with anybody in the AFC And I think you're going to see that. And for them to come out 3 straight division games like that and win them all, they are right now infused with so much confidence and so much like just willingness to kind of put in the work and do whatever Jim asked them to do. That's a very powerful combination. They're going to be tough to deal with.
Great to talk to you as always. Safe travels. Thank you.
Bet, man.
All right.
Appreciate it. Yep.
That's Louis Riddick of the Mothership, former defensive back. He worked with the Eagles and Washington, director of player personnel. And he will be on the call Friday night, Florida State, Virginia, and then the following Monday, Jets and Dolphins on the Mothership. Take a break. Your phone calls, best and worst of the weekend, and the play of the day after this.